What up, y'all? Jay on the Segway. So I had to split this video up into kind of like two parts. This part of the video was a part. This part of the video is a part 2 of a video that I did of the Skydio 2 on 10 things that I wish I knew about the Skydio 2 before I purchased the drone. So this part of the video is going to be on keyframes. All right, I'm not going to really go all into hardcore details about how to use keyframes. This is more like things to watch out for while doing keyframes. So if you guys never edited 360-degree video, keyframing is very similar in concept to editing 360 video. Meaning, when you're editing 360 video, you're kind of like you're going from one point to another point. Let's just say you're walking, right? And you're walking from here to here. But there's the points, like the route to get from here to here isn't a straight shot. You're going to go here, then you're going to go there, then you're going to go there, then there, then there, then there, until eventually you get to this side. Keyframing is kind of like that in concept, where you'll start from one point. When you get here, you'll press a button. If you're using an Apple device and you're using it with the actual controller, you have this little button right here. That is to set your keyframes. Let me make sure you guys can see that. This right here, you see it kind of look like a little target. You press it, boom. Now you done started the keyframe from the very beginning. And then if you're going to go over here, remember I told you between this point and this point, you're going to like kind of do zigzagging, right? So you go from here, now you're going to go to here. When you go here, if you want the camera to be pointing a certain way, you got to make sure before you press that keyframe button on the remote, this is just if we're using the remote. If you're using your phone, there's a button that says add. You're going to press the add button. It's going to set the keyframe. Mind the orientation of the actual drone before you press the keyframe, because when you do the playback, the drone will be facing the direction that you had it facing when you press the add button while doing keyframing. And then you're going to move from up here to down here. Once you get down here, you're going to press the add button again, or the little button on the controller to add the keyframe. But before you do that, make sure the drone is facing the direction and the camera is facing the direction that you want it to be facing. So when it gets to that point, it's facing that direction. This is kind of how you narrate an actual video. Like, you can do keyframing to do a video that you're going to talk on using, you know, there's an option on the Skydio app that will allow you to record audio from, let's just say I'm using my cell phone with the controller. You take the controller, you open it up. This phone is actually too big in its case to fit, but let's just say you have it all, so you got your little phone with the controller, right? Your phone will record audio, but you have to make sure that's on in the settings. Now, if you want to do a video like this in a wooded area like you see here in this video that I'm about to show you guys, the shadows, the constant shadows from the sun streaking through the naked trees, that's a problem, okay? When I say it's a problem, the Skydio can see, right? But it doesn't see as well. So it will hesitate while it's flying. In a lot of cases, if it can't figure out what it's doing, it seems to have this thing where it overcompensates when it's trying to correct itself. So if it's like you say, hey, I'm going to make it go from this very beginning point, then I'm going to make it go up here, then I'll make it go down there, then I'll make it go over there. And in between that up here, here, and here points, there's shadows and stuff like that and obstacles. The Skydio's going to like, it's either going to go too high and then try to hurry up because like, oh shit, wait, I need to go to this other point. I need to go, let's say this is beginning, right? Then you got point 1, point 2, point 3. When it gets to point 1, if it has a bunch of shadows and stuff, streaks of sunlight going through the trees, you see that in the video that I'm going to show you guys. I'm in a very wooded area, but you know, there's naked trees, a lot of shadows. It's going from 1, and if it goes a little bit too far away from 1 on its way to 2, it's going to be like, oh shit, oh, I can see now. I need to hurry up and get to 2. When it goes to 2, instead of just calmly going straight to 2, sometimes it aggressively goes higher and then try to go down to 2, or it might go aggressively to the left or to the right. I personally wouldn't keyframe. I wouldn't do keyframes with this in a wooded area. Skydio tells you that when you do keyframing, when you're doing even just normal flighting, actually I don't remember them saying anything about keyframing, but when you're actually flying and you're doing the autonomous flight and you're using, let's say, the controller, if you actually got the kit with the controller, they tell you do it. I think the best time to fly is in like right when the sun's up in the morning, and then when it's going down, before it actually goes down, and when it's actually up in the air. They're saying midday, when the sun's in the middle of the sky, that's when you can run into issues. Like if you're in a tree, you know, a shaded area, you can run into issues with it seeing or not seeing. Also, when you're doing keyframing, make sure you're not keyframing this thing near a road, for example, okay? And I say that because this thing, when there's animate objects moving while you're in the middle of actually recording, whether you're just autonomously flying or you're actually doing a keyframe video, this drone cannot compensate for moving objects. So if you have this thing flying too close to a road, for example, and let's say a semi truck comes by, if that semi truck drives in the path of your drone's keyframe video, for example, you're gonna lose your drone. And there's a very good chance, if that's the case, that you may not be covered under Skydio Care. I'll let them make that decision. I'm not going to tell you that you won't be covered at all, because you might be covered. If you pay for it, it really shouldn't matter. You should be covered regardless. But that's just something to keep in mind, guys. This thing cannot see moving objects very well when it's flying. That could be people, it can be cars, it can be birds, it can be anything that's moving. If it's not a still object, the way this thing sees the world, it will not. It may even see the object, but then it might startle it. The object may startle your drone, and it may throw your drone way off out of balance, which could throw it into a tree, which could throw it into a pole, which could throw it into a, what's those, power lines. So when you're flying this drone, guys, before you do keyframes with this drone, I highly, I'm going to say highly one more time, recommend that you scout the route before you fly this thing, if you do not want to have to deal with getting this thing fixed because it flew into something, crashed, and burned. Check out the video. Alright, peoples, this part of the video is extremely necessary. It's long, but it's necessary. So here I'm setting up my keyframes. I fast forwarded and sped up the speed to 2 times so you guys can see how often I stop the drone. Every time I stop it and you see me look down at the controller, I'm pressing the add button and I'm adding waypoints, and I'm adding waypoints, or should I say keyframes in this situation. Adding keyframes. Now I need you guys to watch how the drone is flying. Watch when I stop it. Watch how controlled I keep it for every keyframe. I try to keep the keyframes tight so that the drone doesn't try to skip from one point to the other and possibly or potentially fly into one of these naked trees. I want to stress, because I cannot stress enough, Skydio tells you not to fly in these types of environments where the trees don't have any leaves. The Skydio has a hard time seeing anything less than, I think it's a 1/4 of an inch thick or 1/2 inch thick. It has a hard time seeing it. And just because something is, let's say, 1 inch thick, if your Skydio is flying fast enough, it could still hit it because it's just too fast, you know, because it's possibly flying too fast to catch the 1 inch object or whatever you want to call it. Now this is the part of the keyframe video where it gets interesting. It starts to get tighter. Now I want to mention to you guys, at no given point of time is the path that I'm flying the Skydio on any less wider than, let's about 4.5 feet. I could spread my arms wide across and I still can't reach. And they always tell you that your arms width span is about as long as your actual height, and I'm 5'7". And so at no point in time during this little keyframe setup here is the path wider or less wider than like 4.5 feet minimum. You know, the Skydio, despite, you know, the pathway being as wide as it still had a hard time finding its way back doing the keyframe. Now, just to be extra sure, I put the speed of the drone's flight when I was doing the playback. I set the speed at 0.8 of a mile per hour. So it wasn't even flying 1 mile per hour going back. And I did that for safety reasons, to give me time to tell it to stop flying in case it got itself in a bind. All right. Now you're going to watch this thing get itself in a bind a couple of times. That's the interesting part. So watch this part. You guys are looking. Look at how I'm navigating this drone. All right. Just keep an eye on it. We're getting close to the end, and then we're going to actually see the playback. Look at how I'm orienting the drone. Just look at how I'm setting it up. So keyframe is supposed to be a very accurate way of flying. So here we are, we're setting it up. Now all the movements that I'm making, it doesn't matter. What matters is where the keyframes are set. So right here, this is the end, and we're going to go on ahead and have it play back. Now watch the playback. Watch it. You see that? It's doing all of this on its own. Then it started to fly. You see, it's constantly monitoring. Watch it now. I'm not taking control of it. It's constantly monitoring itself. It's trying to learn where to go. It's looking around. Boom. You see that right there? It got itself stuck right there. And so I had to tell it to stop, which I couldn't figure out how to do fast enough. And good thing that it stopped moving on its own. Otherwise, it would have clipped one of those tree branches and went for another fall. So right here, we're waiting for me to grab the controller. Okay, I grabbed control. I started to bring it back, drop it down, and I let it do its thing. I got it right here, and then I told it, okay, continue. And so now we're going to watch it continue. So it just started to continue here, and watch it now. You see how it's going high and it's going up, and it about clipped that one little branch. Right here, the Skydio got itself stuck again. And after this time, I did manual controls because I said, look, I'm not losing this drone again. Look at this. So I had to bring it down and fly it through this little tunnel, you know, manually. So I skipped the whole little route and fast forwarded to this part right here. Now, this is where the part where I'm going to tell you guys about moving it 2 feet from the actual very first key point or the keyframe that I set. I got it about 2 feet from where it started. And this is what the drone did. I said, okay, now go to the first key point. Look at it. It started going up in the air. I don't know why it went up in the air. I never took it that high. And here it got itself stuck. Man, this drone's gonna stress me out. Using the controller and keyframing is fine, right? Like, because you're controlling it. Boy, if you need this drone in a situation like this, if you guys need this drone to do keyframing in tight areas like this, my goodness. I tell you what, don't let that thing go to any of the points on its own. What the Skydio tries to do, so like I'm keyframing, I had it sitting at ground level, right? Probably about 3.5, 4 feet off the ground. I told this joker, I said, hey, damn, am I blown out in this? Damn, I look like I'm blown the hell out. Anyways, ignore that. I had this drone skip 2 keyframes. Now I keep, when you do keyframing in tight areas, I feel like you need to do them tight. You need to make each keyframe within like 6-7 feet from each other so that the drone doesn't try to compensate between 2 distances by cutting across instead of following the exact route that you tell it to take. This thing gonna stress me out. Look, I just got this guy back and it's already about to try to crash into some trees. Godly. Oh, that's another thing. That's one of the things that I wish I would have known about this drone. It is always recording. That could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Bad thing because if you like recorded some stuff before, let's say you're on a road trip and you don't get a chance to download some of the video footage before you fly again, you may run out of data, run out of space, okay? So, and it's a good thing because I don't have to do this over again to show you guys what I'm talking about. I even had to freaking yell like, hey, stop. I'm so, look, keyframe is going to be, I see how this is going to go. When you're keyframing, your keyframe flight has to be very short and very tight. And it probably would help if you had someone babysitting your controller while it's performing the keyframe flight in case it did run into a little oopsie and it wanted to like put itself in a situation where if you're outdoors like this, it's probably not going to be a good idea. So I would recommend taking your Skydio 2 Plus or even Skydio 2. But if you have a Skydio 2, you probably already know everything I'm about to tell you. when you're out here in the wilderness with these trees and shit like this, and these things are all naked, do not do a keyframe flight in this type of area, especially when it's tight like this, okay? The spread out here, you guys can't tell, but this spread is probably about, at max 20 something feet, and at the minimum maybe about 5 feet wide. So I was able to actually fly the drone, because anything over 3 feet wide, the drone's not going to want to go through it because it's too close of proximity for it to try to like navigate through. Okay, it's like a little safety buffer that it has built into it. But even when it's not even close to 3 feet wide, this thing would just kind of, you know, it gets a little wavy. So that's something you guys need to be careful of. You guys may have seen some of these things in other YouTubers' videos, because these things are, you know, this thing's been out. It's a lot of people that's been testing it. But I don't see a lot of extensive reviews on this drone, and maybe because it's like kind of been out, except, you know, as a autonomous flying drone itself for a while. But there's some things that I didn't even see in some other videos that I just want to go over, okay? And like I said, some of these things we will go over. Now, all of this is just my personal opinion. Everything you see in this video is my own personal opinion. It is not facts. I'm not saying, oh, this is do all, be all, end all. This is just my personal opinion, okay? I'm done flying this thing today, because this thing was like, it just gave me a scare. You guys got to see it. Actually, you probably watched it already. So let's go to the studio and let me... Okay, and like I told you guys, I'm not going to do that. That was in another video. I'm actually going to probably upload that video before you guys watch this video, so it all kind of makes sense. And then I'll probably, well, I can't put the link to this video and that video until I upload this video. But anyways, so guys, when you're flying your Skydio, that's kind of how you want to keyframe it. When you keyframe it, I think you can do up to 200 keyframes. Use those keyframes, all right? I personally, like I told you guys, when you look at this video, it scared the hell out of me. I was like, dude, I just got you back from Skydio Care and you're ready to crash again. I made those keyframes tight. I made them so tight. I did not want to show you guys that long ass video of me doing the keyframes. This is actually a chopped and screwed version of the keyframe that I actually did, just to kind of speed it up a little bit so I'm not dragging this on. When you're doing keyframing in tight areas like this, you have to scout the area. If you guys can have a trained person, and when I say trained, I mean learn how to stop that drone immediately. There's a way on your controller, on your screen. If you're doing a keyframe without your controller, you're bold.
Hate to see it.
First of all, second, I would do it, but I would do it in a controlled environment. And that environment that I shot this video in was not controlled because it's too many naked trees, guys. I may come back there later on in the season when it's full and all the trees have leaves on them. I may come back and do that again in this exact same spot, so you guys can probably see the differences between when the trees are naked and when they actually have leaves. I think the Skydio might be able to actually read the environment a lot better. But for now, I promise you guys, another thing, when you're doing autonomous flight, let's say you're riding on a road. I wish I could show you guys an actual simulation video of what I'm about to tell you right now. Pretend you're driving on a road, right? You know, some roads that you're driving on, there's power lines that's kind of running parallel to the road you're riding on. Let's just say you want to fly your Skydio and have it follow you in your car or your bicycle or your scooter, whatever it is you're riding. It's something that you're in, you're riding, and you're going at a decent speed. You can have that drone come fly by, you know, parallel to you, but on the other side of those power lines. But because I was flying my drone and a power line pole, the drone kind of flew behind it, and I could tell that it startled the drone. The drone will sputter a little bit. When I say sputter, I mean it'll slow down. It'll be flying next to you smooth, right? As you're flying, it's flying next to you nice and smooth. This drone flies really well, by the way. If the pole is thick enough, it just pops up out of nowhere, and the drone will slow down. As it's going smooth, it'll slow down and then continue going smooth again. Sometimes those types of movements from the drone will freak it out, and it'll overcompensate. Like I told you guys, when you guys just watched this video, towards the end, as I was flying it and setting my keyframes, I was literally 2 feet from where the first keyframe was. Literally, I was like, you know what? It's right here. The drone's going to be able to just gradually, just gracefully go right where I started the first keyframe, and then I could land it. No, It runs right into the freaking tree line. I was like, why? What is it overcompensating for? This is something that you can expect with the Skydio. It will overcompensate sometimes. It probably doesn't do it all the time. I haven't flown this drone much, guys. It's like my 4th or 5th flight ever. All right. I've flown DJI drones. I have a Phantom 4 Pro and I have a Mavic Air 2S. So I'm not like a newbie to flying drones, okay? I even have some helicopter, you know, remote control helicopter experience as far as flight goes. And this drone will overcompensate. Make sure all of your lenses, this thing got freaking like 8,000 eyes like a freaking spider. You got one under there, then you got these two on the bottom of the wing, and then you got the eyeballs up here and stuff, and then the one there, you know what I'm saying? This thing got eyes everywhere. It's like eyes in the skies type joint. But it's still not perfect, okay? So if this video was any use to you, hit the like button, subscribe. This is not a drone channel, by the way. I've been doing mostly scooters and stuff like that, scooter content, and anything somewhat related to scooters. I felt this was related enough because if you guys, you know, the springtime's coming and, you know, tax money's coming in, everybody want to buy some new toys, you know what I'm saying? And maybe this is something you want to add to your channel if you have a channel, or just, you know, maybe you want to, you know, record your rides and show your friends what you got going on. This is a very good drone for that. You just have to play around with it and know how to fly it, where to fly it, and things to look for. I'm going to always recommend to you guys to scout the area before you actually fly it, and you should be good to go. All right, be safe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.